What was intended to be a serene family lunch became one of the most chilling off-camera moments in reality television history, one that would seal Kody Brown's fate on TLC. Once and for all, the garden lunch shoot featuring Robyn Brown, her kids. And Kody was initially intended as a soft PR gesture, a tranquil response to the public's increasing anxiety about the family dynamic unfolding on television. Robyn's oldest son, Dayton Brown, had never been at ease in front of cameras. But today was different. Something inside him just snapped around noon. A three-person crew showed up: a sound tech, a camera operator, and an assistant producer. But instead of strained smiles or reluctant cooperation, they were met with a wall of tension. So dense, it was almost claustrophobic. Dayton refused to wear a mic. His steps restless across the back porch when the camera operator tried softly and subtly to shift the shot to include him. Everything unraveled. Dayton erupted. His voice wasn't just angry, it was raw, animalistic, guttural. He growled, "You're not filming me anymore. She's being poisoned by you. All of us are." And then he lunged. Chaos followed. The boom mic crashed against a chair. Nearby, the cameraman lost his balance, his face against a stone planter. Blood spattered on the lens. Robyn screamed, and rather than moving in to hold back Dayton, Kody ran outside, not to defend, but to fight. His eyes blazed with anger. Not at Dayton, but at the crew. "Why the hell didn't you turn the camera off sooner?" he bellowed. Hi friends, welcome back. I'm Sienna, and this is TLC Future. That explosive footage was never aired. TLC's top brass held an emergency virtual meeting behind locked studio doors in Burbank. What came out of it was decisive and cold. Kody Brown was done. He was no longer deemed safe for the network. Not as a father figure, not as a narrator, not even as a personality. The announcement came from Julia, right? The show's longest-serving executive producer. Her voice was like steel. "Kody, we're done. We're now building a show around your crumbling ego. One of our crew is in the hospital. You've turned this family into a war zone." Kody said nothing. He sat in his Arizona home office, the walls lined with outdated family portraits and knockoff leather furniture. His jaw locked tight, as if biting back the realization that everything was over. His jaw was clenched so tightly it seemed like he might grind his teeth to dust. "This is impossible," he growled. "Oh," Julia replied flatly, "we've already made it happen." Effective immediately, the screen went black. Hours passed before Robyn found him leaning in his chair, staring vacantly into the distance. The television, turned down low, showed images he wasn't seeing on his desk: a bottle of whiskey, a half-drained, years-long, unused bottle. Until that night, his eyes were frantic, afire with something deranged. "They assassinated me," he said as she entered. "They killed my legacy." But Robyn didn't walk towards him. She didn't sit. She didn't place her hand in his. Rather, she remained creepy still. "Kody, you ruined your own legacy." She spoke up, her words low. "You let the show decay from the inside. You drew our children into this mess, and now Dayton's broken once more. Due to you." Kody flung himself out of bed. "You're turning against me, Robyn." "I'm going." The words hung odd and measured. It took a second to sink in. The one wife who had never disobeyed him, his most faithful, his strongest holdout, was leaving. "DTN's coming with me. I'm going to St. George." She went on, voice unshaken. "Don't call, don't follow, and don't you dare try to make this part of your redemption story. What's left of this family still deserves peace." Kody's voice broke, pleading, "Robyn, you can't do this to me." But she glared off. "This was not something I have done. It was something you have done. Now dwell in the dwelling you created." Meanwhile, states away from Arizona, Mary Brown was staging a quiet revolution. She hadn't been caught off guard by Kody's dismissal. Far from it, she'd actually seen it coming even prior to Dayton's rage. She was penning a statement because Mary was no longer sitting in the dark. For the first time in more than a decade, she'd ceased trying to defend the family narrative and begun preparing to tear it down. Her private memoir, guarded for 3 years, had become something greater than a tell. All it was, a safe stocked with financial documents, secret deals, betrayals, and emotional deprivation. But Mary didn't merely want to publish it, she wanted airtime and TLC. Willing to save its crumbling franchise gave her precisely that, a 6-part confessional series. Raw and uncut and merciless, she didn't bat. Her first interview was shot in a tiny studio just outside Salt Lake City. The decor was spare. A single wooden chair, gentle lighting, and a side table covered with old agreements, printed messages, and a manila folder marked Robyn's deals. She faced the camera with her back turned to it. Her tone was measured, her language careful. I let them tell my story for years. She started, now I'm telling it myself, and then she dropped the first bombshell as early as season 8. Robyn had been cutting secret deals behind the scenes. What? Mary said next, detonated across the internet. Robyn had, since season 8, secured a private agreement with TLC, guaranteeing her extra compensation for emotionally intense episodes, particularly those showcasing her children or reinforcing her long-ed victim narrative. The other wives were never informed. Instead, they were misled into thinking Robyn's starring role was simply a response to audience demand. I still remember when they cut my entire segment. Mary said, her voice cracking with residual pain. We had filmed at a retreat for grief recovery. It was the rawest I'd ever been on camera. But when the episode aired, I wasn't even in the credits. Next came a forensic timeline. Robyn's shell company's real estate transfers Kody had signed over to her name, and unpaid production invoices Mary uncovered despite being contractually obligated to appear. Then came the line that set social media ablaze. Robyn Brown is not a helpless woman. She's a strategist, Kody. Brown was her soldier. The internet ignited. Clips from Mary's confessional interview flooded. TikTok and Reddit reaction videos spread like wildfire. Former fans returned in droves to watch the unfiltered truth unfold. Live by episode 2, it only got deeper. Mary unveiled emails between Kody and TLC producers pleading for narrative rewrites. Voicemails of Robyn begging to manipulate the storyline. Audio of Kody yelling at Christine for ruining the show by being too independent. By episode 3, TLC did something once unthinkable. They leaned in with Mary, Janelle, and Christine at the helm. The show was officially renamed Sister Wives Reclaimed. Then, the billboard in Times Square. Mary alone, hair blowing in the wind, arms crossed defiantly in big white letters. The real wife, Mary Brown, she's done waiting. Premieres June 1st. And Kody, he disappeared from public view. His formerly busy Flagstaff house, once filled with production vehicles and hoopla, grew quiet. It resembled a shrine, a tomb of ambition. He was seen at times at rural gas stations, bearded and talking to himself. He started a podcast. It imploded after 3 installments. Kody attempted to revive it. He started a YouTube channel. Comments were turned off in 24 hours. Robyn would not return media calls. Her son Dayton quietly started therapy. Then rumors locked court record suits. Rumors associated with production responsibility. A former producer came forward saying she had unreleased footage from the Las Vegas Days tapes stored in a storage facility where Kody purportedly made makeup comments regarding his wives and his control as the star. TLC allegedly paid 6 figures to cover it up, but already too late. Promises were being broken, and they weren't letting up. Simultaneously, Janelle Brown was ascendant, freed at last from 30 years of living with Kody Brown and his other wives. Mary, Christine, and Robyn. Janelle finally had her freedom. A good mother of 6 and a doting matriarch she had been. Long besmirched and unjustly judged, frequently blamed by Kody for faithlessness. Their ultimate breakup was during the COVID-19 pandemic, when Kody imposed strict measures on Janelle and her kids. In 2021, she'd had enough, taking a cue from Christine. She started making her own discreet plans to leave. By 2022, Janelle had dissolved her spiritual marriage to Kody. Notwithstanding her economic woes, she persevered. Then, in 2024, she made a dramatic decision. She purchased property close to her married daughter in North Carolina and moved out of Flagstaff for good. Refusing to live her life on anyone else's terms, Janelle started new business enterprises to stabilize her income. The dream once envisioned by all 4 wives, the Coyote Pass project. broke apart, bought originally in 2018 as a shared space. The 14-acre tract became a metaphor for Kody's failed leadership. For years, Kody refused to divide the land equitably, but in 2025 he gave in. Janelle got $35.00, presumably twice what she'd initially invested. The payoff was a turning point. Now she has her own land, her own future. In April of 2025, Janelle surprised fans with a beaming announcement. "My home is slowly coming to fruition." She is constructing it herself. Her self-assurance has skyrocketed. Her independence has been cemented. She had once proclaimed 2025 is the year she eliminated all toxic aspects of her life. Thus far, she's fulfilled that vow. Now she has her own land, her own future. Sometimes it's the smallest moments that speak the loudest. Janelle surprised when Maddie appeared on Sister Wives. She didn't call Kody
My
dad.
home is slowly coming to fruition.
Plain. She is constructing it herself. To some, that may have seemed trivial, skyrocketed. A slip of habit. Her independence has been cemented. Others, it felt deliberate. She had once proclaimed 2025 as the year she eliminated away all toxic aspects of her life. Had not been earned. Thus far, she's fulfilled that vow with peace, purpose, and clarity. It marked road ahead. Janelle Brown is no longer just in how Maddie lived her life. She's thriving, but in how Janelle Brown wasn't merely putting her life back together. Needed Kody's approval. She was constructing companies as well. She was building companies such as Tata Farms, something t-shirt shop. A life that lasted not by legacy, but while Janelle but by intention. Her Robyn went down. Season 19 of Sister Wives revealed a side of Robyn Brown that fans had long imagined. She made it clear. A victim card master, a chaos specialist, and yet part of that everything she'd ever said she wanted. Rebellion has been all to herself. She was growing up in a happy household, offered both warmth became a part of the Brown family in 2010. She watched her mother into a complicated dynamic already present between Christine, Janelle, and Mary. Kody's favoritism and silence with the other three wives, to the people she loved, were more than 30 years in the making. As a decades of history Maddie believed in the structure Robyn's her parents upheld. Just but more than a decade, and still she rocked the foundation. Truths, initially, realizations that didn't always sit comfortably. To mesh, she smiled, her break she from the old ways, but over time she became increasingly there were no confrontations, and increasingly powerful. No big eventually, as Christine, Janelle, and Mary departed individually, she chose a partner who brought stability instead of chaos. Robyn had been at the center of the breakdown. She built a home founded on intention. Today, with Kody alone, the Fisherers are beginning to emerge. To her children. Robyn and the other wives were never romantically or sexually attached. She once did. Plural marriage. These days, them in an emotional and practical relationship. They were forced to operate as a group, not just even when there was animosity. Robyn frequently felt like an outsider, but instead of closing the distance, she played the victim repeatedly. Fans and family motherhood for Maddie isn't a task. Her behavior over the years, particularly her blame and shifting her tears. The protector, her stories, and the peacekeeper. Her silence when she should have spoken. She once said her home feels holy, made one thing certain, calm space, even after winning, and she meant it. Robyn is unhappy in quiet moments, disguised as family. Robyn conceded that her relationships with the other wives, one of her most never came close to what she'd envisioned. Transactional. She refuses to teach her children that cruelty is love, more collaborative. That being dismissed or emotionally erased is normal in a relationship. Her greatest mistake. Hoping Christine, Janelle, and Mary, especially for daughters of emotionally absent fathers, they didn't, and perhaps they never were. A chord that echoed now. Robyn and Kody are sitting in a broken home of ghosts and what ifs. And the reality is, she's growing in this. And in that process, never the dream she's giving voice to countless others. This was never the family she believed she'd become a part of. But perhaps the most devastating piece of her story is this: out of the emotional distance Robyn Brown never felt it and he's allowing the other wives, grandchildren. It says Janelle, more than Christine, or Mary to opine about her marriage, but she never held back an opinion about theirs. He skips milestones. As family dynamics started falling apart. And those little ones who once called him Grandpa during the COVID-19 are starting to know him. Robyn morphed from reluctant bystander into active provocateur. Maybe Kody doesn't realize the gravity of that loss. Kody's past marriages, maybe now she publicly criticized them, then unfairly shut out. Made it all worse, but the family fell apart. This is what years of emotional neglect looked like. She professed relationships be trying to keep things afloat, but viewers perceive something different. Her words cut sharper, maintained, her actions grew more polarizing. Now Kody's once vast family world has narrowed. He used to juggle multiple wives, slowly but surely it became evident Robyn wanted Kody, and today his bond with Robyn, and she got him their marriage flourished as his other, appears to be the only connection that still holds weight. Christine's marriage went off the rails. Janelle and Harry clung for longer, but ended up walking away and parenthood. Robyn, however, kept a tight grip. The questions are becoming harder to ignore. Of it, although Robyn herself had experienced a divorce, reflection, and her first one with David Jessup, he's left to face. She was not very sympathetic when the safety. Christine, Janelle, and Mary decided to leave. Commanded. She condemned them severely, weren't just a personal responsibility for her own history. They sparked a much larger conversation. She condemned their decisions while refusing to acknowledge. She opened a cultural moment. Robyn, a daughter asking, victim, what does it really mean to be a father? Every chapter of this family story, whether it's with Kody, the children, or the ex-wives, far. And although from the lights and chaos undoubtedly in a quiet corner of North Carolina, hardship, she overstates her difficulties, a life and expresses her suffering louder than anyone else usually fought to define others' actual pain. Her mother Janelle is just down the road. A constant, Robyn's soothing incessant appeals for sympathy have resonated with viewers. Reminder that especially when her reality family is so much more stable than the one she's witnessing around her. She's still in a committed marriage with Kody, loved, protected, and prioritized. She's not the one who had to walk away yet. She keeps on behaving like the most wounded of them all. And when it comes to the children, Kody's favoritism has become impossible to ignore, even with his very public declarations about how much he loves all his children equally his. Behavior speaks louder than words, the kind of behavior where some kids are adored and others are neglected. Robyn isn't helping her impact on. Kody has only widened the rift, particularly since she insists that her children were othered by the rest of their family. But here's the reality. Although Robyn's kids might have had some difficulties, they were never pushed aside like Kody's relationships with his older kids were. Robyn's narrative is no longer about fitting in, it's about redefining the story one tier. One gripe, one selfish confession at a time. And the audience, they're no longer believing it. Robyn's kids from her first marriage were welcomed quickly by the Brown family. Kody treated them as his own. No hesitation, no reserve, but with time. Robyn's protective nature somehow solidified into something more deliberate. She wanted Kody's time, his focus, his devotion, and not only for herself, but for her children. Even if it meant at the cost of his relationships with the rest of the family, Robyn tends to portray herself as the most empathetic and emotionally accessible of Kody's wives, but her behavior says otherwise. One instance still smarted deeply for longtime fans when Isabel, Christine's daughter, required significant back surgery to correct scoliosis. Robyn skipped the day off work. She used COVID-19 precautions as an excuse. But years before that, when her biological son, Peyton, was required to undergo a serious operation, Robyn was Allen. No question, no hesitation, she was by his side. Every step of the way, that dichotomy wasn't lost. Robyn's professed concern for all the Brown children was hollow when she walked away from Isabel. She professed to care just as much, but when time to do it came, her actions spoke louder than words. Yes, pandemic concerns, yet Robyn had quarantined. Already there were means to provide support. She declined again and again. Robyn's empathy ends at the threshold of her own home, but the contradictions do not end there. Robyn is also the sister-wife's moral mouthpiece. She teaches Christian values and sexual purity to her children and television viewers at every turn. She emphasizes abstinence and demands compliance with her code of conduct. And yet, Robyn married into the Brown family after a decade of marriage and a divorce. Her own life does not align with the principles she now demands from others. That is not necessarily bad people change, but hypocrisy. When she is imposing these on her kids without leaving them open to discuss things, there are no honest chats, no belief in them, and their ability to make up their own minds, just rules and shame. Robyn's isn't family cohesive. What it does do is confirm her belief in moral superiority. This strict demeanor, her selective emotionalism, and her consistent victimhood have